Hey guys, I'm Madison, and welcome to Gearbox and Gossip. This is my first attempt at a podcast in my whole entire life. Is it going to go well? We'll find out in the future. But yeah, this is Gearbox and Gossip, and we're going to see what comes from it. This first episode is going to be how I got into motorsports. So it would have been about 2022 when my brother moved back home and he was putting football and Formula One on. Now, at first, I was watching more of my town's football team play football. I was watching more of that. And then I was watching F1 at the same time, but typically on Sundays, I would fall asleep, or Saturdays, I don't know which one, but I would fall asleep during the F1. But over the course of 2022, my love for it grew. I can't lie. But when I first started watching, the team that I picked to follow were McLaren and Ferrari. Now, my brother did warn me about Ferrari, but I chose to ignore him. Safe to say, without being horrible, they're not my favourite team. Like, I don't dislike any teams, but they're not my favourite team. But yeah, 2022, Ferrari and McLaren were my go-to teams. And then saw Carlos win the British Grand Prix, became one of my favourite drivers, along with Daniel, Lando, and Charles. I think, and Seb. Seb was up there. They were my top 5 drivers in 2022. And yeah, 2022 was, in general, just a fun year. I started liking F1, started following it more, started downloading the F1 app, the McLaren app, all of that to follow this sport that I'd never heard of before my brother moved back in. And then 2023 came around. Logan Sargent had been signed for Williams. Alex was in Williams. Oscar was with McLaren. Lando was still with McLaren. And 2023 was when I started focusing more on F1, and football was out the window. I had no interest in watching football anymore. Like, I much preferred watching F1. So I would wake up at the crazy timings to watch practice, quali, all of that. I would be the type of person to set my alarm half an hour before, say, Vegas, but I would set my alarm and wake up early to watch it, or pull all-nighters to watch it. But yeah, that 2023 was when I started focusing on it more and started finding more drivers. It's also, I think, I don't know if I'm correct, but I think it's when I started first posting on TikTok. 2023 was when I first started watching it, and when I introduced myself to other series in motorsports. So obviously, if you watch F1 in England, it's on Sky Sports, and they have F2 and F3 on. Well, I don't know what race it was, but I put F1 on early, and F2 was on. And in 2023, they had Ollie and Fred in Prema, they had Arthur in Dams, and I had already heard of these drivers, and I was following them on Insta, seeing all their results, and I was like, well, it won't hurt to watch it. So I just put it on, watched it. It was lovely. And then slowly started watching more F2 in 2023. I can remember the final round of F2 because the championship was between Fred and Teo Porsche. I wanted a Fred win, but we didn't get it, unfortunately. But yeah. And then I started watching F3, not as often because it was early in the morning, but I would still, if I was up, I would put it on and watch it. I was watching practically every round of F2. I was watching everything of F1. And then I introduced myself to GB4 after watching and following Chloe Grant in the first season of F1 Academy. And then she made the move to GB4. And that was another series that I grew to love. And then GB3 alongside it. And 2024 was my first ever time being to a racetrack in person. I went to Silverstone to watch GB3 and 4 and fell in love with it. The watching it in person and at home, it's such a good series and I couldn't recommend it more. And then started following GB3 and GB4 more closely, and then found Italian F4 through following Prema in F2 and all of that, because I followed them on YouTube, watched their videos, found their drivers, loved their drivers, watched their drivers race, and started watching Italian F4, Freca, all of that jazz. And then, well, I don't think I started watching anything else in 2024, but also in 2024, I went to the Williams fan zone for the first time. The best experience ever. Both times I've been, it's been so good, and I could not recommend it more. But in 2024, they had Logan, Alex, and Jensen there, I believe, and Zach O'Sullivan, and I wanted to be there for all of them. We were too late getting into Zach, but we got in, and we were stood quite close to the front for Logan, and I was, and still am, a massive Logan Sargent fan, and I had a American flag, and it had his name and his number on. I no longer have the flag. I gave it to someone to give to him. I don't think he got it, but still, that's not the point. I gave it to someone, no longer have it. But I had that wrapped around my neck, and someone asked him a question because it was 4th of July weekend, and he was racing at Silverstone, so they were just asking about that. And then he pointed at me and told me that he might need to steal my flag. And that was the first interaction and only interaction I've had with a Formula One driver. But I left the Williams fan zone shaking and crying from shock because he was my favourite driver and I could not believe it. But yeah, I think for 2024, that was about all that happened. And then this year, I wouldn't, 2025, I've started watching a few more series and started following F3 more closely, because now, if you know me, if anyone knows me in person, I am a massive road and motorsports fan. I love their F3 lineup, I love their GB3 lineup, and I love Alex Dunn. I would personally say I'm their biggest fan because I haven't met many other Roden fans in my life, but I love them two bits. My mission this year is to collect all the Roden cards in TurboTax I possibly can, and to try and get them to release merch, because they don't make merch, and it is heartbreaking. More junior teams and that need to make merch, because what do you mean I have to sit and make my own merch for them? But yeah, 2025 I've started watching more, but I went to British GT in April mainly for GB3 and GB4, and I might have a pair, not the exact pair, these are my pair, but I made some bedazzled sunglasses. We were ignoring that they've just broke, but I made bedazzled sunglasses for some drivers, and I gave them all out, and I loved doing that. So I brought more things, and I had more favourite drivers after going to GB3 in April, because that is when I first started interviewing drivers. The most memorable one, I think, because I asked them all one question, but the most memorable one was definitely John Marco Pradell. He made it so entertaining and like so interactive, if that makes sense. But yeah, I met so many people at Silverstone in April and started making glasses, and like I said, I brought more, and then I went back at the beginning of this month and I had more pairs of glasses, and I handed them all out, and quite a lot of them ended up on Instagram or TikTok, or I got messaged by one of the drivers thanking me for them. And I was shocked at how good the glasses had went down, because the first time, don't get me wrong, all the drivers liked them, but I saw like one pair on Instagram. I wasn't expecting anything to come from it. I just enjoyed making them. So thought I'd do it again, handed them out to loads of drivers, and they all seemed to really enjoy them. So yeah, and I'm making more. So I'm going back to Brands Hatch on the 23rd of August. So I'm making more then, and we'll see how that lot goes. But definitely one of my favourite things to come from this year. Another thing is I've started again watching more series. I've watched a few British touring car races and a few British F4. I'm trying to get more into the series for both of them, but my stepmom is not the biggest fan of me watching motorsports, so it's kind of hard to watch everything I want to watch and more on top of it, because I get in trouble, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, they are the series I'm trying to watch more of. Whoa, hold up! While filming this, just had a response from Reza Seaworthen. Okay, go me, I guess. But yeah, this has been a really chaotic first episode. It's not a very long one either, but we're gonna see more of these episodes. We're gonna see more chaos and more random things over the course of however long this gearboxing gossip is gonna last. But if you stayed for this whole about 40-minute long video, or even shorter after I've edited it, thank you, and I guess I hope to see you when you come back for another episode.